So I know you go by El Arto. What's the history, the quick history behind the name El Arto?
Well, it's ripping off El Barto without getting sued. There's the history.
Oh man.
I I I was trying to figure out some sort of like nom de plume, so because I just felt like people have cool names, and I've always had this like very boring biblical name. I was born during a time when everybody was named after somebody in the Bible, Michael,
Uh,
Joseph, David, right? So um, I just wanted to have a cool name.
how's it, everyone? Wayne the Unknown here, and welcome back to another episode of Geeking Out. We basically discuss everything nerd and geek related. Today, I have another special guest on who you may have seen when I had the chance to interview them at Metal Art Comic Con last year. I'm here with artist Dave Warren, who you may know works from Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs, The Simpsons, Minions, and more. Again, Dave, thank you for coming on to Geeking Out.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. It was a pleasure to meet you when we I think it was Medford. Was that the first
Yeah,
show that? Yeah,
Medford back last year at their new location.
yeah. And
Oh,
no, you were such a fun guy, and you had such good energy, and I was like, dude, I'll do it.
I try to have good energy. It depends if I have my caffeine or not.
And remind me again, what was your username? Because that was killing me too.
Wayne the Unknown.
Wayne the
It's a
Unknown.
name. It's a name I've stuck with for the past, oh god, the past 4 years now since I've done this channel.
Dude,
But enough about but enough about me. We're gonna be talking about you. So like I said, we get to know you as an not just as an artist, but also as a person. The stuff you've done, what life is like, how you got into this type of stuff, and everything. So, as I always ask these types of questions at the beginning, how long have you been doing this for? What made you want to get into art and animation and everything?
um, well, first of all, I might suck as a person, so you don't know. But how did I get started? Oh man, I mean, uh, as a person who could say I'm a professional in animation, that was the late '90s with Ralph Bakshi and Spicy City. So that was my first gig in animation. Uh, how I got into animation? You tell me how far back you want to go. I mean,
Like basically, what made you have a passion for art and everything?
so I think it came down to, it's interesting because I run into a lot of kids now that at cons that remind me of a young me. Um, I think when I was a kid, um, the first thing that I got recognition for, where somebody said, "Oh wow, look at that! You're good at that," was drawing. I can remember being a small child. I don't even remember how old I was, but having a cousin, my cousin Bruce, he'd say, "Oh, look at how good David colors. Look at how he stays in the lines." And like I was tiny, but I remember, wow, that was like it got me excited. I was like, wow, they recognized how good I color. And and then it just started. I started drawing Bugs Bunny and Peanuts and then did I was always the guy that was doodling in class and drawing cars and weird monsters and that was what I did, and that's what I kind of I enjoyed to do. It was my place to go, for a lot of things. And honestly, I never thought of it really as a career until much later on. I grew up on the East Coast, and I came to California with a band, and so my dream, like millions of others, was I was going to come to California and be a rock star. and I think the band lasted about 6 months or something, and eventually everybody moved back to the East Coast, and I stayed, and I did a whole series of odd jobs over the years, and then I fell into doing art again. I ended up at a screen company doing designs for skate companies and surfboard companies, snowboard companies. I was doing a lot of that kind of what we called action sports back in the day, all the surf and skate culture. I was doing a lot of that art, right?
Well, that's definitely
So,
popular in California too.
yeah, and it was a blast. I mean, I had so much fun doing it. Dude, I was in my 20s and just having a blast, Um, and then I ended up working for a company that was in uh, Compton, of all places, and they licensed cartoon characters for clothing, for headwear and tops and things like that. And they hired me to draw Bugs Bunny and Popeye and Disney, whatever they had a license for. I was creating the designs, and so that was kind of fun. Here, little Dave got to get paid to draw the same thing. He was doing as a child, as an adult. So I was like, "Oh, this is cool. They're paying me to draw Bugs Bunny," and it was really fun to get you see a cap with your drawing on it, right?
Right. I mean, also those buying those licenses for clothing brands is not always easy either, I imagine.
No, it's a and I my career has kind of weaved in and out of consumer products, and still, now I'm a cartoon carny selling stuff. So I mean, it's it never stops. But I ended up hiring a guy. I became art director for that company, and I hired this guy Gavin, who was from South Africa, and he was this charismatic like character, and he literally came in for this job interview to help design caps and things of that nature. um, and so he brings his portfolio and he opens up this book, and it's all like naked women, photos of naked women, and I'm like, uh, and he's like, "Oh, mate, I'm the editor of this, of a magazine called Jugs," and it
Uh,
literally he had a porn magazine called Jugs with two G's,
oh, jeez.
and and that's what he was showing me, how like his how he could lay out a magazine and how he could, like how he constructed his books, and I found him to be such a character. Um, that I hired him. But the reason he's relevant to this story is that he went, "Yeah, mate, I've got to make some extra money, and then and magazine sales are bad." This and he goes, "Oh, I was in animation, man, but animation, it sucked, man, it sucks. All they work you day and night." And all I heard was, "Wow, that sounds like a really cool job." And so I end up hiring Gavin, picking his brain constantly about animation, and went, "I think I want to go make cartoons. Like, that would be really freaking cool." And for a period during that time, I was in my early 20s. I was really into comics and comic strips. And so my goal was I wanted to be the world's youngest syndicated cartoonist. So I really tried that for a long, long time. I had limited success. I was King Features had this thing called the New Breed back in the day, where they would feature a new artist every day in a single panel cartoon. And I got into that a couple of times, which was thrilling because I was on the same page literally with Gary Larson, like my idol. And I was like, this is awesome, right? But it didn't pay. I think I got paid $75 for each time they bought something, and I sold two. So over the course of 2 years, I made like $150, right?
I
So
mean,
that
$75
wasn't.
back then is like quite a bit nowadays. in a sense.
Yeah, it was, and and I mean, I dipped in and out of. I did adult cartoons for a long time. Um, I I was a hustler cartoonist for years. And I went. The reason I did that was because the syndicated cartoons would pay $75, 150 if you were lucky. The adult magazines paid 500. So I went, oh, well, I don't care, and I could tell the kind of jokes that, a 27-year-old guy wants to tell, and so I did that, but I never wanted to make a career out of doing that. And I was a young father and I didn't really want to be that guy.
You didn't want your
So
kid exposed to that kind of stuff, which is understandable.
yeah, I didn't want him going to school someday and say, "What do what does your daddy do?" You know what I mean? And it was like at that time, I'm playing in a band and I'm working for Hustler magazine, and it's like this isn't the guy you bring home to dinner. And so I was trying to find something that was more in line with the life that I was trying to create for myself. And so this licensing thing, doing Bugs Bunny and those things, was perfect. And and then when this Gavin guy got into the picture and started talking about animation, I went, well, maybe I should start making maybe should I get into the cartoon business? Like, forget about uh, still images. What if I started working with moving images? Like, I grew up watching Bugs Bunny. Like, what if you did what Chuck Jones did? And I was like, I like that idea. So at 32 years old, I went to night school. I took animation classes from the union in Hollywood. So the animation union used to have a school where you could go to this creepy old building in North Hollywood and go in there, and there were industry veterans that would teach these classes. So I learned from some of the great old timers in the business um, how to animate. And when I got done, I was still working for the licensing company, and there was a guy that used to work for us named Ben, and he left. And about 6 months after he left, I got a call from this gal, and she said her name was Sherry. She was at HBO, and she was calling for a reference on Ben. And I was like, "Oh, Ben's great. He's an amazing artist, great guy." And I said, "If you don't mind me asking, um, what's Ben going to do with HBO?" And she said, "Oh, well, we're starting up an animation division, and
Oh, that's right.
he's applied for a job as an animator." And I went, "Really?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to take Ben's job." I said, "But I just finished animation school and I would love to talk to you about this." So I sent them my portfolio and they ended up hiring Ben and me. So that was how I got started in animation. Um,
Oh, that's
and
great.
and it was amazing. I mean, literally, um, I think when I first started in animation, I walked on air for 6 months. I couldn't believe that I got to do this. I was surrounded by all these amazing creative people, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful time. I mean, it really was. That little studio that HBO had there for a minute was this little boutique studio, and guys like Eric Radomski, from Batman fame, and Catherine Winder, and I mean, we were working with Todd McFarlane and Ralph Bakshi, and it was amazing. And it was a studio of like 30 people, I think.
Oh, wow.
And the producer walked around, in a sundress, barefoot, and
Mhm.
I thought that was how animation was. I thought that was how like everybody, behaved. It really was. It was this beautiful thing. And the Ralph Bakshi show got canceled. That's the one. That was the first hard lesson I learned in animation was uh, uh, my father passed, and I went back east to pay my respects to my father. And when I got back, it was my birthday, and I got called up to the producer's office, and I was thinking, oh, they're gonna, say, oh, we're sorry about your dad and happy birthday, And I got up there and they laid me off. And I was like, "Oh man, I thought you were gonna wish me happy birthday." And
There.
they were, they were like, "Oh, it's your birthday?" And I went, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry."
I
But
mean,
they were great people, and they were like, "Dave, we love you. It's just the show is being canceled, and you're more of a cartoon guy, and we're gonna keep going with Spawn, but we're not doing Spicy City."
oh,
So
that's right. Yeah, Spawn was Todd McFarlane. That's like the '90s when
yeah,
like you said, HBO. Not for anyone who's out there listening. Back '90s cartoons were really big for HBO, like Happily Ever After, Spawn, and a few other stuff.
yeah, and Spicy City. I mean, Ralph Bakshi was again. I've been blessed in my life because I've gotten to work with guys that I idolized as like a young guy. Ralph Bakshi as a teenager. Fritz the Cat and Heavy Traffic. They were X-rated cartoons,
And Lord of the
and
Rings too.
Lord of the Rings. And I mean, I would go to see Lord of the Rings at midnight movies on Saturday night. They used to play Lord of the Rings, right? And we would go like at midnight to these movie theaters to watch that. I used to sneak into the drive-ins to go watch Heavy Traffic. Cool World was like, oh my God.
Oh, that's another good movie. I remember seeing that as a kid, which I shouldn't have. But
Yeah, but it was,
it's a really good movie, like blending, you know, real life into 2D animation. You know, like I never thought such a thing existed because mind you, I also hadn't seen Roger Rabbit yet either.
yeah, and see, and Bakshi kind of pioneered that rotoscoping. You know what I mean? Like he championed it, let's say, right? But I got the opportunity to work with him, and so that was my first gig. Um, Joe Vo, who's now a director on Family Guy, he and I started out together on that show, and both huge Bakshi fans. And so that was that. And then so they went, well, they felt bad, and they went, would you be interested in going over to Warner Brothers? And I went, yeah. And they went, well, we know some people over there, and we'll set you up with an interview. Would you be interested in working on Pinky and the Brain? And I went, yeah. And so that was my second gig. I went from that to Pinky and the Brain, and I remember John Kafka saying to me, well, you're in animation now. And I didn't realize what that meant until I got to Warner Animation. Cause like I said, I went from this, little boutique studio with, 3 dozen people, to Warner Animation, which was floors of a building. And we were on a floor. One side was Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs, and the other side was Batman.
Oh, that's
And
right. Yeah, around the '90s. Yeah, Batman the Animated Series and Tiny
yeah,
Toon
so
Adventures has just came out and everything as well. Yeah.
yep, yep. So we split the floor with Batman, right? And it was just a sea of cubicles. There was, I don't know, 300 artists or something on each floor, right? And I was completely not used to that environment, and it was a machine. It was like you had a meeting, and here's a script, and here's a list, and here's a boom, 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 and everything, like was organized and well oiled. And I was overwhelmed. I was like, oh, this is like, I don't know if I can do this. And again, amazing group of people. Man, I now Warner Brothers, there's people that to this day, I talk to on a daily basis from a show I worked on in 1999. It was a family. It was, looking back now, a golden time in animation. We were scoring with an orchestra. We were having animation done in Japan. It was just the writing was brilliant, the voice acting was brilliant. Like, I just recently been watching some of that stuff because I've been working on a reel for myself for cons this year, and I look back and I go, like, I just watched Wacko's Wish, and I went, this is an incredibly well done
It
film.
is.
It's
It's a really well made animated movie, especially since it came out what I think late 90s, shortly after the show was like coming to an end at the time.
Yeah, that was kind of our last hurrah. So um, they they canceled Pinky and the Brain, and so uh, a guy, Rob Davies, and I in, were put into development by my dear friend Joey Franks, and they kind of picked us, um, and we went into development for Jamie Kellner, um, because at that time Warner Brothers was going to launch the WB, so they were going to come
Oh
out with
yeah.
their own network. And so Rob and I got just ordained by this amazing human named Joey Franks, and went into development. And they gave us like a little crew to put together show ideas to pitch to the network. So that was so much fun. That was kind of where I got the development bug, and like where I went, oh man, I want to like creating your own show is just like everybody's dream. And so we were doing that, and we got pretty close. But we were also competing against people like Jackie Chan, who had Jackie Chan's Adventures,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah. Kids WB was also becoming a thing as well,
yep, yep.
just like
Uh,
Fox Kids back in the day as well.
yep, yep. So we never we had a show called Camp Whatever, and we went as far as focus group testing with it, but it didn't get greenlit. So we thought, well, that's that. We're gonna go, to the unemployment line, and then they decided to renew Pinky and the Brain, but as Pinky Elmira and the Brain,
Oh yeah, okay, I vaguely remember. It didn't last long, if I'm not mistaken.
and I think a season we did. But it won an Emmy because it's Steven
Well,
Spielberg, and Steven
well, I
Spielberg wins.
mean, if his name is attached to it, of course, it's gonna win something. It's gonna win something if his name's attached to it.
Yeah. Um, it actually was pretty funny because the premise is that the lab gets shut down and they end up in a pet store, and Elmira adopts
You're
them. And
yeah.
they're just
I remember watching one episode of that back in the day.
Yeah. But it was really cool because by that time, um, I had been at Warner long enough that I had somewhat established myself. And so I did a lot of the character design for, like, created the characters, and that's fun, because a lot of times, like with Pinky and the Brain, um, when you're a character designer, Pinky and Brain are already established, right? And all the main
Mm.
characters are established. So I'm just basically putting them through motions or costume changes or, things like that. Sometimes you get to do something memorable. We did a Star Wars parody, and
Hmm.
I got to do Pinky as C-3PO, right? So that's when you get to do stuff like that, it's fun. But most of the time, you're not creating main characters; you're designing secondary characters. Um, I remember one time when I first started. I think it was the first or second script I was ever handed, and it was a Calvin Klein parody, and they gave me a list of, oh my goodness, 2 dozen models that I had to design. But this is Pinky and the Brain, so the models were like, oh, and this is what the script says: model dressed as a ham. And it's like, okay, I got to figure out how to create a model dressed as a ham, right? So it sounds really glamorous, but then you're like, oh my god, what am I going to do with this? And I've got to create. 30 weird things like this, but it
Oh,
stretches your brain, you know. But it was kind of trial by fire. But like I said, at the time that Pinky and Elmira and the Brain came along, I had been doing it long enough that I was able to work on some of the main characters, you know, where, like I said, Pinky and the Brain, I was doing mostly secondary characters. Although I do say, I often like to toot my horn and say, I got to design Pinky's parents. So, and Eric Idle voiced Pinky's dad. So I always thought that was kind of a cool thing because an episode came along and they were like, "Oh, we never actually had an episode with his parents in there." So I got to design those. So that made me feel special, you know. Um, so yeah, so that was that season of Pinky Elmira and the Brain, and then eventually we did get laid off. And how it works in animation, like most things, it's networking, right? So
oh yeah, you
uh,
you gotta know people, especially when studios like that in the '90s and early 2000s were like just for pumping out animated show after animated show. You're competing with like at the time you got Toon Disney at the time, Cartoon Networks stuff at the time, all that stuff going on.
yeah, and I mean, there was a boom period there, right, where there was quite a bit of work that was happening. Um, so it was a matter of like finding where you could go, and so I had a dear friend Courtney who was a producer that went over and said, "Would you like to come over to Sony and work on Dilbert?" And I went, "Wow, yeah, that's prime time. I kind of always wanted to work on a primetime show." Um, so I went over there and did Dilbert for a couple of seasons, and that was an interesting experience. Again, people that you meet, right? Caravallo, who's now one of the executive producers of Family Guy, was an associate producer on Dilbert. Um, and so a lot of the Family Guy people really came out of Dilbert. Joe Vo again was on Dilbert, director on Family Guy. So people kind of streamed through, and Dilbert was fun. I can't say that Sony was my favorite studio I ever worked at. Um, Dilbert was not that exciting as a character designer because I was really used to Warner Brothers, very beautifully rendered characters with a lot of squash and stretch and a lot of
Right. I
personality.
mean, that and Dilbert was adapted from the comic strip that you get in the
Yes,
newspaper as well.
and so it had that Dilbert sort of stiffness to the characters, and so the jokes in Dilbert were less physical and more in the writing. And so it was a good gig, but it wasn't as stimulating as an artist, right? I guess that's kind
Right.
of first world problems,
No, I mean like on Animaniacs, you're making or Pinky in the Brain and stuff like that. You're making them do wacky, crazy things. They get hit by like a rock or something. They turn flat and thin, or they just do some weird like eye popping thing.
Right? They act like cartoons, um, and that's one of the things with I a lot of times I get involved with development on stuff, and we always have this conversation, like, give it a reason to be a cartoon. Otherwise, it's cheaper to make it in live action. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, why would I make Seinfeld as a cartoon, right? It was so like,
I can't picture Seinfeld as a cartoon, and like you
well,
said
there's
with
no,
Dilbert,
yeah, and I mean with Dilbert, you had Dogbert, you had Catbird, you had the devil, you had, there was a world there again. So if you have a talking dog, that's a reason for it to be a cartoon, right? So, now you can do what, I used to be a creative director on a show called Wilfred, over at FX. And that was about a talking dog that he
Oh,
hallucinated.
the show with Elijah Wood.
Yeah, yeah, that was a live action,
You
right?
were on that show? I didn't know that.
I was a creative director. Yeah, I was.
Oh,
So I
nice.
was a creative director at Fox for uh, 7 years, I guess. After the Simpsons movie, they offered me the job as creative director, and so they it's basically when you become creative director, you're more involved with the brand than you are the day-to-day production, right? So I
Hmm.
stopped working on episodes and I started working with Fox corporate in consumer products, developing products for The Simpsons, but then, working on like Krusty Land. I helped develop all the, I went right from the movie into the theme park, and started working on all the stuff for the ride and building out the theme park for Universal. Which again, for me, as I'm finding out late in life, I need to be constantly challenged and stimulated. So these things that represent like, oh, I'm stepping outside of my box, and I need to have that. Like that fuels my creativity and my fire, So I when I started to do that, I started out as a creative director on The Simpsons, and then uh, I had some friends that were working on this show called Sons of Anarchy, and I
Another
was a
good
huge,
show on FX.
oh my god, and I had been a Kurt Sutter fan for a long, long time. Like I don't know if people remember The Shield, but
I
I
remember. I remember the Shield.
I think the ending to The Shield is maybe one of the best endings to a television series ever. And Kurt Sutter wrote that. So I always was like, man, this man right here, he's it, right? He's the real deal. And so my friend Bob Thiel was doing the music along with my buddy Dave Kushner, who I created Pusher Jones with. And so I kind of was privy to what was going on and what they were doing. And I would have to go into these meetings every week at Fox, and we'd sit around this big board table, and everybody would have to, report in as to what you're doing, what's going on with your stuff, right? So I'd have to get in there and talk about the Simpsons. This is what we're doing. This is what, you know. And so every week I would bring up and I'd go, hey, by the way, there's this show FX is doing called Sons of Anarchy, and I think it's going to be a huge hit. And so they would always go, and then like I don't remember how many meetings I brought it up, but finally this guy at Fox went, listen, I'll give you some money for your little motorcycle show if you promise not to bring it up at another freaking meeting again. So they gave me a budget of $15,000 to develop like a consumer products program for Sons of Anarchy, and I think we did. I forget. I think we did 1.5 million in sales the first year, and by season three, it was the number one earning consumer product show at Fox,
Oh
which
yeah. Oh, that's right. Because FX Fox owns FX. I forgot about
yeah.
that.
And the Simpsons, which was the king forever in terms
Oh.
of for generating money, um, was surpassed by Sons for a minute.
Oh wow.
And so that's how hot Sons of Anarchy was at one
I
time.
mean,
It
Simpsons is
and
up there.
yeah, I mean, but Simpsons is a legacy brand, right? And
All right.
so for something like that to happen, so from that experience, FX started saying, "Hey, we'd like to put you on this show. We'd like to put you on this show." So I did It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I did Wilfred. I did American Horror Story. I developed product and campaign stuff, brand stuff for all of those shows. Um, Brickleberry. Sometimes I forget. I look at things and I go, "Oh shit, I used to work on that." Like
Oh,
I
that
forget.
Brickleberry. That's an
I spoke.
interesting animated show in itself.
What's funny was I was just like scrolling through my TV last night, and I always was looking at animated stuff, and um, Google TV, it popped up as like in Google's trending animation thing, and I went, Brickleberry? Really? Oh my God.
That's an interesting show that was on Comedy Central too for like a hot minute. I think it lasted like a good four couple seasons. Because I watched it. I watch
Yeah.
it every now and again when I need like a good laugh or something.
That was again, so for me, that time as a creative director at Fox, I got to play in a lot of different sandboxes. I got to work on stuff that was outside of animation, and it was a blast. It really was. I mean, I got to see the world. I got to do all kinds of fun stuff, and but all things, the only thing consistent in life is change, right?
Oh yeah, no.
And now you know Fox is no longer, and I just saw last week that Disney's going to, I guess, sell off the Fox lot, uh, put it up for sale, um, which is a shame. I mean, it
Yeah, I
breaks
saw
my
the
heart.
same thing about with the Warner Brothers Animation Studios, how they're wanting to deconstruct the old animation building and turn it into something else.
Yeah, I mean but I mean it's just you know animations in a quantum phase of change,
Oh yeah, not to
and
mention the rise with AI, which I to this day I I'm not a fan of AI art, especially when they try to implement in TV shows and pass it off as like, oh, like that's not done by an artist, that's done by a computer program.
it uh, it it mm, it's tough. I mean, I saw something this morning on Instagram, um, about bite dance. The guys that created the algorithm for TikTok released. I don't remember what the AI. It's an AI motion generator. But have you seen it? Did you see
I I
this?
I've seen a few, but I'm just like where's like the depth, where's the feel, where's like the passion, where's I always
Well,
say F AI art and animation because it just doesn't feel like what I used to grow up watching. I mean, I know I was growing up when watching these shows when it was still hand drawn stuff, and then when they
you know the
switched over to like digital art, to like when they're using their computers and everything to draw and like on their tablets and everything.
the thing is that kids, younger generations, right? Um, their exposure is even though we always say, oh, well, the internet allows you to, you have the world at your fingertips. It's created ecosystems. So algorithms create ecosystems, and so uh, younger generations aren't exposed to things that you were and I were, so they don't know any different. They're we're digital immigrants and they're digital natives. They grew up in a digital world. We had to
Hmm.
immigrate to a digital world.
Oh yeah,
So
no.
their um, their aversion to AI is not the same as ours. I agree with you, but I am also of the mindset that the Pandora's box has been opened.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no, it's been full like and just left open. I just wanted to get like someone who's been in this business for a long time. I wanted to get your perspective on the whole AI art animation thing because it's so crazy. Then it's so like sometimes it's hard to tell if it's AI or not, and especially nowadays with scary it's how scary good it's getting. Like it's insane.
well, when we get done here, Google. ByteDance, AI, and there's a video that you can see where you have an actress who is uh, voice acting and physically acting in one box. And in the other box, you see the real time AI generated character. And they switch between several real people to an animated character. But when you see it, it's generating. So it's going to eliminate motion capture. It's going to basically, you could sit here on your phone with this now and do what we're doing and have two AI avatars doing this, right? And mimicking us exactly. Um, the I think the implications are I don't think the studios are going to come back to. We're never going to see a studio full of animators again. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that Netflix announced a few weeks ago that they're going to use AI
I
generated
saw
stuff.
that, and that pissed me off so much. Like, you're these big companies, your streaming services have become basically cable TV. You have all this money to pay these actors, to pay these artists, to pay all this, but it's like, oh, well, we want to save money for whatever freaking reason, and just just have a freaking a soulless program and maybe like one or two animators or whatever, and then just like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing now. It's like, okay, some people will be against it, others will like won't know the difference. Like you said, especially like the younger generation, they're exposed to all this newer stuff that uh,
And so, I mean, I don't know what we do because if you look at the way the distribution model is set up now with Netflix and streaming services. Um, back when we were doing Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, back when The Simpsons came out, The Simpsons launched on Fox, which was going to become the fourth network. There was ABC, CBS, and NBC. And then there was this new thing called Fox, and it was Channel 11.
yep.
And now you have unlimited channels and 24-hour streaming. So they have to produce infinite amount of content, right? They've created
Mm.
this thing now where people have an insatiable appetite for content. They have very short attention spans, so you have to constantly feed the beast. Um, so even though they're making hand over fist, they go, how can we make this cheaper? How can we make this simpler? How can we do this? Well, AI is that, right? AI is that. So
Mm.
what Netflix is doing, you'll see Lionsgate do, you'll see Sony do, you'll see them follow suit, right? And then the Disneys and the Universals will be slow to the table because they want to maintain some sense of dignity or integrity, but they'll go that
Oh
way.
yeah,
And then
no.
the artist will go that way, and animation will be made by prompt engineers, right? Um, AI avatars now have agencies. So there's agencies that represent the AI likeness of Tom Cruise and Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley and you name it. And so we don't need to have to pay an insurance company a cajillion dollars to put Tom Cruise in a movie. We can just create him with his
I
likeness,
mean,
which is licensed, and he's going to
I,
get paid for it. The state
I
will get
mean,
paid.
AI used to be a helpful tool, like actually helpful, like a computer program, not like this weird thing where they do this weird, crazy stuff. More like, hey, I need help with the understanding this or understanding that, not. And this is why also I support also indie animation studios, like the types you see that people will put on YouTube or something, and like it takes a lot longer
That's
because those are crowd-funded projects where like, hey, we're making the series, we have this Kickstarter, we appreciate if you're able to like even just like save a couple bucks so we can work on this, work on that, and get it put on YouTube or something.
Well, see, so you're asking, what do you do, right? That's what you do.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not the model that we're used to, right? When I go
Hmm.
out to Comic Cons, I purposefully now sell pencil drawings. I sell sketch cards that are pencil drawings, and I
I remember
sell,
seeing that at con last year.
yeah, and now I've added hand painted little mini canvases because I want to give people access to handmade art, because a lot of what I sell is created on my iPad. It's created digitally. That's how I draw now, and it's a I love. I still draw pencil and paper all the time, but from a production standpoint, working on a tablet is a game changer. There's no comparison, and so technology is a tool, and it's just another tool in your toolbox, right? And a good carpenter isn't defined by his tools; he's defined by his craftsmanship and his love for what he does. So, be a good carpenter. Use the tools, and find ways to. If you love what you're doing, you'll find an audience. I
Ex-
think that YouTube is the perfect place, and YouTube is leaning into creators now. I'm going to navigate more. I've been putting a lot of energy into TikTok, but TikTok has become super politically charged,
oh
and
yeah,
so
no, you have to be careful what you post nowadays on there, or it'll get flagged and removed. And
I had so listen to this. So I was just saying I was creating these reels for self promotion for Mid Valley Comic Art Expo last weekend,
mhm.
and one of them was Pinky and the Brain, and it got banned on TikTok, and I appealed it, and they upheld the ban, and the reason being is that they said the video incited violence because Brain said trying to take over the world. And I went,
That's just been his catchphrase for the past almost 30 years.
a cartoon from 1997 is a threat. And I went, we're in hard my language universe, batshit fucking crazy times.
No,
Um, and
you're at least that's just the thing that gets me is that like a lot of their I get like for a long time I know even like HBO Max they were like starting to slowly get rid of all their animation stuff, Cartoon Network, like it's because they're wanting to go a different direction, and I get that, but also you got to remember the whole cartoons are just geared towards kids. Like bullshit. I've seen cartoons that are not geared towards kids, and
yeah, well,
I
see, look
mean,
look at what my friend Chris Pronowski, from Titmouse, who I think is going to be remembered as the gentleman auteur of the animation studio owners. Titmouse consistently creates amazing things. If you haven't seen Sovereign Rain, oh my God, watch it. It's one of the best sci-fi series ever created, and it's animated. But Big Mouth, I could go on and on and on what Titmouse has done, but they just released a subscription service called Chirp, and they're going to be releasing independent shorts, anime, like all kinds of different content on Chirp. And to me, I go, that's the future. That's where things are going to, go to. It's freeing in a way because you're stepping outside of the studio system where you're never going to get to make the kind of content that you really want to make. But it's daunting because you've got to find an audience. You've got to develop that fan base and those people that are willing to spend money,
oh
even if it's a
yeah,
dollar, right?
oh
I
no,
mean,
I wholeheartedly agree, and I feel like indie artists who are just getting like their animated TV shows out, you got to be careful when studios want to try to like, oh hey, we see that your show's doing well. Do you want to like work with us and everything, like you got to be careful because if you like if studio grabs a hold of that, they're going to make so many changes that it's not what you originally had envisioned.
There is, yeah, those days are, those days that ship sailed so long ago, right? So if you're an author and you want to make your own, you want to make things that you want to make, right? To me, right now, YouTube is the best game in town. Uh, a lot of people like Twitch. I feel old for Twitch, I guess.
No, I can't do Twitch either. It's just like I don't have the attention span to be on there for hours on end and try to make content. Like I just stick to YouTube.
Yeah. So I think YouTube is becoming more creator friendly, and they're making it so that people can create their own channels and create serialized content, and so I think they're going to start to mimic more of a traditional streaming service for creators, and so that's a good thing. And hopefully, we other platforms will emerge that will allow that. Again, we're just going through such a strange time that
Hmm.
it's unprecedented what the world is going through. So, I feel it's a great time to be a creator. It's a great time to be an artist because this is when the world needs people uh, with vision and a voice to express themselves. Um, and uh, and it's good to laugh at situations that we're in and let some steam out of the kettle. It's good to point a finger at things in a way that is maybe an easier pill for people to swallow. So I think it's a great time to be a creator. But again, it's all these things, yin and yang. There's a double-edged sword.
Hmm.
You know, uh, you have to be cautious as well. People are, you know, not quite sure what to say or do a lot of times.
Oh yeah,
So,
no, I completely, I wholeheartedly agree on that. So one, I think two more questions. Um, what kind of advice would you want to give to someone who wants to get into this line of work? They want to get into the art, they want to get into the animation, like especially with nowadays how things are drastically changing. What advice would you like to give to someone?
uh, chase your dream until you catch it, man. You know, if it's something that you really love to do, you should be doing it. Like, you know what I mean? The best advice is to just do it. I draw every day. Some days I draw bad, some days I draw good, some days I draw great, but I draw every day. Um, I love to draw. I love to create. So my advice is create. Um, Embrace the technologies that work for you. I I do a lot besides just draw. I know how to edit. I know how to produce sound. I've learned how to, you know, produce myself. And so I think you are your brand. That's something for people to recognize. You are your own brand. So how do you want to represent your brand? How do you grow your brand? These are things to learn, right? On the technical side, I would tell everybody learn Procreate, learn Adobe Fresco. Those are two great digital software tools that you can do wondrous things with. You should have knowledge of Photoshop, Illustrator, Adobe Premiere, basic things like that, character animator. Make sure you've got those skills. Um, get into some groups, whether it's Reddit, Discord, Facebook, find groups of people that have similar interests and find some community, find a tribe. I think artists tend to be introverted, so it's great to have cheerleaders. It's great to have people to bounce ideas off of and a community of people that you trust and that you care about. And I think that's community is important. So that and have fun, man. Have fun. I always, I say we're making cartoons. right? You didn't get
Mhm.
it. You didn't want to be, animation to me is even kind of like I go, it's animation sounds like boring. Cartoons are fun, right?
Mhm.
I want to make cartoons. Like I want to make stuff, and so I think just have fun, man. Just have fun. Whether if you're cooking, have fun cooking. But if you want to make cartoons, that's because you don't want to do something boring. You don't, or animation could be boring, but you don't want to do something that doesn't stimulate you, right? So if you've got that bug, man, have fun, and then just like Nike, just do it.
No, that's some really good sound advice. Like with my YouTube channel, like I'm slowly getting into like wanting to like add in more interesting stuff. So if I know some artists, I'll like, hey, I have this project I'm working on. I'll pay you. Would you be willing to help me, do some artwork for it? And like some people who like was looking for some people who are doing voiceover stuff. I'm like, hey, I'll pay you if you want to help me do some like read some quick lines for this project I'm working on. I greatly appreciate it because I like I like supporting artists. I like, and if I have the budget, I want to pay them too any way I can because stuff like that's not for free, and it's always also good to support artists as well.
Artists like money.
Oh no, I mean,
I
because there
I
are some
like
people
money.
who
Do
are
you like money?
there's some. I mean, no, I get it. There are some people who there are some artists who are trying to get their name out there, and any like promotion stuff will help, because I always like supporting local artists. The one thing I always say about this channel is like the guests make the channel. I just record, host, edit, and post. But like the people that come on, they're the ones that really make what this channel really is.
Well, that's awesome. But look it. I think that you're a very personable guy. Like when I met you the first time, that's what I just said, well, dude, I would love to do your podcast because you're a nice guy. So people buy people. That's my belief system. So you're humble in your statement there, but I want to toot your horn and just say you're you're a great facilitator and you're a good guy to be around. So
I'm-
uh,
I
you know,
I mean, 4 years ago, I just went into this like not really knowing much, just going based off what I seen other YouTubers do, growing up watching like the interview stuff on TV, and I'm like, okay, I think I could do this. I mean, I'm still learning 4 years later, so
well, we never stop learning, man. Right? I mean,
no.
that's just enjoy the journey.
Oh yeah, no, no, I definitely agree. Um, oh yeah, I forgot to ask. So I know you go by El Arto. What's the history, the quick history behind the name El Arto?
Well, it's ripping off El Barto without getting sued. There's the history.
Oh man.
I I was trying to figure out some sort of like nom de plume, so because I just felt like people have cool names, and I've always had this like very boring biblical name. I was born during a time when everybody was named after somebody in the Bible, Michael,
Uh,
Joseph, David, right? So um, I just wanted to have a cool name. And so the first year that I went out and did Comic Cons, I had shirts made that said Bootleg Bart. And I went, oh, I'll just call myself Bootleg Bart. I'll be Bootleg Bart. And it just never really sunk in with me or something. And then I had a sign that I had painted that I did El Barto, like that classic
mm,
Bart graffiti thing, right?
mm-hmm.
And I painted it, hand painted it on a wood sign, and I had it at my booth. And I was looking at it one day, and I went El Barto, El Barto, El Arto, and then I literally went, oh, I'm gonna be El Arto. So I just started pushing that as just something fun and easy to remember. And quite honestly, I don't know whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. It's just an idea. And It's it's something fun. But now I've got like I'm El Arto on TikTok, and my website now is El Arto, so I'm kind of invested in it. Disney, don't sue me, and and yeah, and that's it, man. Not a lot of history behind that.
Hmm, nice. So last but not least, where can people find you on social media if they want to stay up to date with your art, if they want to meet you at a convention, stuff like that? Where can people find you online to like support and see what you do?
Instagram is I am Dave Warren, so that's a pretty easy one. TikTok is El Arto. And Facebook, you can just look me up on Facebook. It usually pops up like Dave Warren Fox or something. So I'm pretty, but Facebook is more personal stuff. Instagram and TikTok is more where I go. And my website is larto.co. And so there's my, if you want to get Simpsonized, I do a lot of turning people into Simpson style characters. So if that's something you're interested in, go to larto.co. My shop is there also. So if you want to get some cool gear, I've got prints and stickers and t-shirts and all kinds of cool stuff that you really can't get anyplace else. You really can't. So you can check that out. And I'll be at Crypticon the first weekend in May up in
Ooh,
Seattle, and
ooh,
looking forward to that.
that's gonna be
And
fun.
yeah, and I've got a custom Funko Pop that doing with zombie donor parts. I've gotten into the custom Funko Pop game, but
Ooh,
for uh, Darcy the Mail Girl is going to be there, and from what's it, Billy Bob's The Last Drive-In.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. The last drive, yeah, where he talks about horror stuff and everything. Yep, I remember watching, growing up watching that as a kid.
yeah, his sidekick Darcy the Mail Girl is going to be there, so we did a custom Funko Pop for her,
Oh,
and
she'll love that.
yeah, and Mira Sovina is going to be there, and I think if we can pull it off, we're going to try and do one for her as well. So looking forward to that event. Great,
I can't
great
wait to hear her.
people. Yeah, it's my first time doing it, and a lot of people last weekend got me totally like stoked on it because they were like, "Have you ever done it before?" And I was like, "No." And they went, "Oh my god, dude, it is like my favorite convention. It's so much fun." And I'm like, "Yay!" So I'm really looking forward to it. Take the drive up to Seattle, dude.
Oh, if I can, I would, but just a whole bunch of other stuff going on this year. But again, Dave, thank you for coming on to Geeking Out, to for knowing that artist. Really great talking to you again, especially with a longer recording time. But yeah, hopefully to see you at another con in the future for sure.
Absolutely. Are you going to be in Redmond?
No, I won't be in for Beaver State this year. I'm like limited on what cons I can do.
I understand. Well, I'll be at Beaver State as well, but dude, such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for the
Oh, of
opportunity to
course.
come on the show. Really, really, truly, truly appreciate it, man.
Oh, no, thank you. And as always, I'm Wayne the Unknown. Until next time, thank you for listening, and as always, thank you for watching.